Hello, everyone. Good to have you. Welcome. Excuse me. Welcome back. Paul here, just adjusting my chair as we get down to business. Animating, basically Photoshop compositions, because I get asked this a lot. I was supposed to do it last week. Last week I was doing like 3D. Try to combine 3D with animation, but didn't get to the animation part. So that's what today is all about, and want to welcome everyone out there in the wonderful world of the internets, I guess. Round two, Viola. What's up? Oh, masterclass title is really excited. Okay, thank you so much, Frank. I think it's good. Thank you, Michelle, so much. Got confirmation, so we'll just go ahead and switch over and kind of like dive into this. Animating Photoshop compositions, and we could do this in Photoshop, right? Yeah, there's a timeline in Photoshop. I've covered that before, but I think people want to know how to do things that maybe are a little bit more intense. And again, since this is a masterclass, excuse me, I figured we can go with things that are a little bit more intense. So yeah, just kind of give you an idea. Like, this is what I posted this morning, right? Sort of this sort of animation on my Instagram. So just some floating sparkles, right? It's just a Photoshop composition that was kind of breathed some life into it by adding some animation, some lighting flickers. Here's another one. Excuse me. You know, lovely trees that become lungs. So I did that last week. And we can go on and on. Wanted to kind of show a couple more. Like, these are largely done in After Effects, and this is very Halloween-esque, so that's why I'm kind of into it. But again, just doing all that animation, as you can see, there and there. Okay, got it. Very similar. It's all pretty straightforward. I haven't actually viewed these in a bit, so it's like kind of fun to take a second look and be like, okay, how did this one turn out? I'm not crazy about how this hair is like one clump. Oh, there's an animated line. There we go, Paul. Good job. So you get the idea. Cool. So that's the plan. Spooky stuff. It's like skulls and bones and skeletons. What is happening? The ripping of the... Oh, it's so freaky. I love this one. Come on. That's awesome. I like it. All right, so we'll bring some life into our work, and this is the piece again. This is basically the... let me check it again. Just the composition that I originally started with. I kind of wanted to start something from scratch, if that's okay. Not quite from scratch, but just kind of something that's not already like built out fully. But let's take a look at that. Here we go. Double click. Here's this. So yeah, this is kind of cool. All right. Yeah, spooky stuff. I wanted to kind of make something new, but maybe I shouldn't. But I have something rendering in the background as well. Oh, and it is done. Yep. Cool. Alrighty. So let's open up this. There we go. Here's our different composites. And again, I want to start this simply, and I'm trying to knock out a simple or a quick composite that we could then animate. So I'm just kind of breaking this down into just like the basic pieces, right? So we could have that skull there. Perfect. Let's close that. And maybe we'll steal some elements from here. Because I have a bunch of rocks and dust and different things. So yeah, let's bring in some of these stones. All right, let's bring in a lot of this stuff right here that we could animate as well. Excuse me. This is gonna mean, let's make it Halloween-esque. Again, I just kind of want to brighten it up, right? I think the other version gets a little dark, so I might kind of, play with the background. Not 100% sure where that's going to end up. If we do want to go more Halloween-ish, we could throw some like yellow in there, right? That kind of looks kind of Halloween-ish, but we'll work that out later. I want to show how to actually animate and sort of go through the sort of color cycles of a background. Would be really fun as well. But again, this is where we'll start. We have our skull. We have our statue. And so yeah, this is going to be kind of like After Effects for Photoshop users. And let me make this panel a little larger. Those thumbnails, so we can see them a little bit better. Yelloweenish. Let's make it yelloweenish. Yes, we're going to make it dark and spooky. Right? Like that. So here's our skull. Skull we can animate. So we could animate layer masks. We can play with like blend modes for this as well to kind of blend it together, right? So I can have this skull like so, and then we'll add a layer mask to it and just start to brush out some of these edges so it fits in like that. Oh yeah, this will be cool. I want to match that color. Okay. Yeah, I hope this isn't too scary for anyone. Is it too scary? Let's bring back some of that. Let's match the color. Shoot. That's right. I'm going to do things destructively. There we go. Boom. We have that matching pretty well. It's getting spooky. All right, we will take a couple of these. Let's actually throw a little more black behind. Just kind of like right there. Right, needs a little bit of shadow. So there we have our spooky skull. The cool thing is I'm going to convert this into a smart object, and I could work on all of this later because I want to add like a rib cage and other bones as well. So we could take all this, these 3 layers, right? I want to kind of do it 2 different ways. I'll do it this way because typically I'd put these in a layer group, and we'll call this statue. So that's our layer group. And then I have just a bunch of junk right up here. I don't even really need this stuff yet. Maybe I won't worry about it. All right. Armless dude. Yeah, I know. I get it. I need to add some more to this as well. There we go. I'm going to throw a skeleton in here, or like a rib cage. Here's our lovely rib cage that we can match up. So again, just kind of blending these 2 together, like maybe it's originally a statue, and then we can have the sort of skeleton part kind of flicker in, like the bones or something like that. By the way, these were free. Got these off of Adobe Stock. Almost done. Sorry about this. I should have had this already rendered. He's not scary. He's armless. You are funny. General Kenobi for the The joke of the day. Into it. So we'll have this rendered in the background. We'll add it to our composition when we're ready, but we could also jump into After Effects before that as well. Yeah, exactly. So like, I like the idea, Cody. I think that's a great idea. Like, have it flicker on this statue, and then you start to see flashes of this skeleton. That would be really cool. And this all starts in Photoshop, of course. So we have to get the design down first. The anatomy might not be perfect right now. Don't... You know, I wanted to be, like, do medical illustrations when I was in college. I wanted to be, like, a medical illustrator. So that's where I think all this comes from. All right, there that is. I already rendered out the skull, so I'm going to turn that off. We'll save this, and we'll render out this skeleton. Yeah, so I am using Adobe Substance Stager, just so you know. I'll show you some cool things about it. You guys know I like flowers and like nature. This has a lot of nature elements that are kind of like, I don't know, I call them procedural, but basically you can control a lot of aspects of like a plant, the number of leaves, how tall it is, all that fun stuff. It's really cool. Okay, we have this done. Let's go to render. We're going to call this skeleton. And then let's have this render in the background. Sorry I don't have that done yet, but that's taking place. Okay, right in here. Let's get rid of a lot of this stuff. We don't need that right now. Let's just take this statue, and we'll have another element really fast, just to show you how all this stuff translates in After Effects. Take our ellipse, draw out our circle. Move that back there. And maybe this would be a moon or something. But there we go. Here's our design. So we'll call this circle. We have this gradient fill, statue. This is actually group, so that's what we're going to call it. And then I want to have one other element that is going to be a smart object. So let's find a crown. Maybe I'll get lucky. Let's do this. Oh, so sorry this is taking a little bit of time. Plugins, free stock search. Let's search for crown. Okay, perfect. Let's just drop that in. Ooh, that's gorgeous. All right, cool. This is what I'll go with. I'm just going to grab this really fast. In fact, this is what I'll do. Let's just remove background. Oh. It's like I got to isolate this a little bit more. So let's use object selection tool. Grab just that crown. Come on, snap to it. Pretty crowns, that's right. Ultimately, honestly, this would be 3D. I should easily make this 3D. But again, I like using free stock search, makes it easy. Let's invert that, fill that with... Oops. Boom. Done. Done. There we go. Did it. Okay, so we have our crown right here, and I'm going to convert this to a smart object. So crown. There we go. Boom. All right, I think that's pretty good. Don't even need that background anymore. So this is as simple can be. Saving this, it's going to be in this bust folder. So that's all I have is the skull I've been working on and then the bust. So let's go ahead and open up After Effects. That is done. Oh, how exciting. Wait for it. Wait for it. Don't get mad at me, everybody. I needed to render this out at a higher res, but this is going to be like right here, okay? So we'll put it right there. This is going to be our skeleton. Boom. Skeleton will be in a layer group as well. Wait for it. I'm so sorry, everybody. Jeez. There we go. It's not perfect, but it's good enough. All right. Cool. All our components are done. Here we are in After Effects. This is the final we'll review later, but let's just do, grab this PSD and we'll just drop it right into After Effects. From here, we're basically saying, hey, you know what? Just keep everything as is. You can merge layer styles. I'll just go with editable layer styles. I don't have any style properties or anything like that. Just so you know. So not a big deal, but we'll just make a new composition and retain layer sizes. I wonder if, yeah. Done. Okay. Double click. Here it is. Let's get to work. We have a job to do, and I probably need to move my big head. Let's move me over here. Now that I'm in After Effects. Okay, so everything comes in as expected right down here. You can see this skeleton comes in as a layer comp. This is our statue group. You could always click on the source name so we could see that this is the circle layer that is in the bust PSD. And these are layer comps. So these are basically considered, did I say layer comps? They're compositions. Yeah, they are technically kind of like layers, but they're compositions, separate compositions. Not to be confused with layer comps in Photoshop. But we have this layer comp, so we can kind of turn that off. We can see this one, the statue group. This is that group, double click, and now we can see inside of it, we have our skull, still maintained. We have this layer 1, which is just a shadow, and then we have the statue itself. We can turn on our transparency right here, and everything looks just fine. All right, I'm going to close a lot of this stuff. There we go. Cool. So, whether you're making a group or a smart object, it's going to come in as a separate composition. So here's the skeleton. Remember well, actually, no, sorry. This is the crown. Okay. Here we go. Actually, I made this skeleton into a group. This is the smart object, this crown that we can see right up here. Okay, so if I decide I want to change this, which I can, it's right over here. Here's everything that was imported. So I can go to that crown and I can edit it, right? So I can, I think if I double click on it, we'll open it up. But I don't even edit things this way. I don't even search for them over here. I'm just showing you where that's at. I literally just open up that same file. I go to that crown. Sure enough, there's that smart object, right? From there, I can add or just like adjust it in some way. In this case, I'll just like flip it just so we can see the difference. We flipped it, so we have this bright side on this side. Close it, right? Now here we are back in After Effects. I do want to make sure my file is saved. So going back, we'll save this file. The highlight again is on the left side. And now when we go back in here, we can see that it updates it. So it's all connected. All right, let's add some fun stuff to this, shall we? Let's add some fun light. Maybe some sparkles. You could add some light rays to it if you want to. You want to add light rays to it? And layer masks as well. To answer your question, what kind of plugin did I use for the stock photos? That's freestocksearch.com. So that's what I used. Right over here. So we have this crown. We have this skeleton right here that we can control the transparency for. We have the different blend modes. We can change that to say overlay, which will not work for pre-comps. So anyway, but let's take this, because what I wanted to do is I wanted to kind of like mask some of it out and maybe make it flicker, right? Maybe we can make the skull face flicker too. That would be cool. I have too many ideas running through my head. All right. So this is what we're going to do. I think after looking at this, I think this is a great composition as a still frame. So essentially what I made in Photoshop was just this still frame. I really like the idea. I think Cody Bear liked this idea of this flickering. So that's what I want to do for the skull. That'd be pretty sweet. So let's update this. Take this out. Let's group it. Call this skull. Yeah, so many cool ideas. I'm going to take both of these. I'm going to convert them to a smart object. There we go. That's what I want. I want this to kind of flicker on. Okay? So that's what's going to happen. There we go. All right. So that's Bust is looking for that file. Can't find it in anymore because it was once in here, which I don't need it in there anymore. So let's do our import. This time when I do an import, I just want to steal one layer, the one layer that I added. So right in here, we can go to footage, choose layer, and from this drop down, that's where I'm going to select the skull. So there we go. Bring in the skull, bring it in as the layer size or the document size. This gets to be pretty important. Like, I'm actually going to go with document size. It's going to make it that document size. If I do layer size, and then I decide I want to add the whole skeleton to that layer, then it's going to change the size in After Effects and kind of break my positioning. So there's my skull, drop it in, boom, there it is, my skull bust, right? And from here we can make this flicker a couple different ways. So we can control the opacity, right? Easy enough. We can add keyframes right down here. So we can click right here. In fact, we'll hit T for opacity. We'll scrub in. We can change this to, say, 0, right? And what's going to happen over the course of 15 frames, half a second, it's going to fade in. Okay? It's not that dramatic. What I can do a toggle hold keyframe. And toggle hold keyframe. There we go. So with toggle hold keyframes, it says, hey, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and hold this property until I run into another keyframe. So it doesn't do a tween between the two, right? So there that is. It's like we can go, bop, bop. Yeah, it's bouncing back and forth, and I can take that back down to, 0, bring it up again, all that stuff. This is typically like a lot of work for some flickering, okay? So what we'll do is we're going to add a wiggle to this, right? I think this will be a little fun. Yeah, this will be fun. So rather than this just kind of turning on and off, which is it's too much work. Honestly, it's too much work to do all this. I'm gonna get rid of all those keyframes. For this option, I'm gonna option click on this eyeball, and now I'm gonna get the ability to write some scripts in here. So we'll do wiggle. We see it highlight like so. Within here, we're gonna have two properties. We do 30. Yeah, now I need to look up wiggle. I forget the properties all the time, so I just do After Effects wiggle expression. Okay, so the first number is the number of times your layer will wiggle per second. There we go. HelpX. Thank you, HelpX. There we go. Here's some fun examples of wiggleness. It gets a little advanced in here. Oh, that is a lot. There we go. Frequency and amount. How often and how much. All right. Anyways, I just put wiggle 30 and then 75 in there. So let's just go ahead and hit enter, and we can see it flickering 30 times per second from, I think, 0 to, I'm not sure what the 75 would be if it would be the number, since I put it in here. There should actually be 100. I think that would go from, there we go, 0 to 100. Let's drop this down to 5. Again, just playing with this wiggle expression, and this is typically how I work, right? So there we go. It goes a lot slower, and you can see it flickering. So anyways, wiggle expression is used a lot for motion. You can drop this in the position, and we can move things a certain amount, a certain distance, over a certain amount of time. So it makes much more sense when you're moving the position as opposed to dealing with opacity. But anyways, there's our little flickering, and you get the idea. Cool. All right, let's move on. Let's add some fun rays to this. Let's fix this. This whole skeleton needs to change. This all needs to kind of change, right? Option click. Yeah. All right. Man, 30 minutes has already gone by. I want to add some lighting to this. Just like in this other example. Like we have this cool lighting right up here. That's kind of cool. So that's what I want to work on now. Okay, let's watch it. That sort of light shining down will be fun to add. So let's do that now. Okay, we'll go to layer, new solid layer. Let's, sure, make it black. Let's add an effect to it. So we first need to create our layer. And this layer is just going to have some fractal noise to it. So this is like the clouds that you make in Photoshop. There's your clouds, your fractal noise. Okay, so we want variations in our light. Okay. We could play with the contrast and all these different settings, by the way, off to the side. That's going to make more sense once we drop in our light rays. So let's just drop in our light rays right now. Let's go over here. Light rays, that's right, CC light rays right there. Drop it right on that same composite. Okay. There's the light rays, and you can see that little burst. Let's go ahead and increase the intensity of it. Let's increase the radius. There we go. So we start to see that light burst. Kind of the more we increase it. We'll decrease the softness. I'm basically working right over here. Sorry this is so teeny. There we go. So decreasing that softness, we're getting more of those rays of light. And then we could also change the position right in here. Just like so. All right. Now let's take a look at what I did with this one. Fractal noise. Paste this in. Let's get this one. All right. So we get this mixture with black. Sorry, I was like head downs working on this. All right. I should be able to change this to add or lighten. Okay, it's working now. I don't know why when I changed it earlier, nothing happened. Okay, so this is what you're also going to run into. You start doing this, it starts bending, and it doesn't actually typically work with the very edge, right? Sometimes you're like, hey, see, look at this weirdness. This is what you get. Like, whoa. It's because this canvas or this solid is only the size of this current document. So we actually need this to be bigger in order to move this center point around. Right? It's actually not bad right there, but I want to position it off screen, if you will. Alrighty, so let's make a new solid. And this time we're just going to make this like twice the size. Like so. And then we'll steal these, paste it in, get rid of that. And there we go. Now we got more what we're looking for. Change this back to lighten. And there we have it. Let's take a look at the center point. There it is. There's the center. And kind of play with the contrast, the brightness, and then we could also tint this, because what's happening here is some of the black will show through. So you can actually map the blacks and whites to different colors, and that's exactly what I want to do. Let's go with tint, map the black to purple, and then the white to white. And let's animate this too. I'm gonna make this darker. All right, so we have that light ray. We're gonna put that right up there. We're going to animate it. For all these properties, we can turn around and animate them. So we have the center point that we're going to animate. There it is. We can turn that on. There it is. There it is. Okay. It's just going to be moving around a little bit just off screen. We'll make sure the first and last keyframes match up. And now we have our fun flickering. Our flickering and our sort of light doing its thing. Oh, good. Angel, I'm glad you're learning a lot. I know I need to work on this composition. I need to work on it so bad. But the cool thing is this is all linked back to this Photoshop file, right? So I can take this, and really I'm not happy with the skeleton, right? This is the problem. Right, it needs a layer mask. I'd probably, I don't know, kind of like blend this together a little bit. Maybe use a fun brush. Right, and just kind of like, you know, sort of blend the two together. Let's take the flow down. I don't know, I just need to kind of like blend it together a little bit better and make it look cool. Right? Ooh, pastel party. I don't know. It just needs work, okay? But really just showing you can edit that, jump back in here, and we can see it's going to update like so. It's flickering anyways, so we should be good. Okay, we've got our scary skeleton thingy doing its thing, right? Let's add some more fun things like dust particles. Okay, so just like I do over here, let's take a look at the final, one of the finals. Like this one. See all these little like swirling dust particles? That's also what we want to create. Yeah, you can go back, do that in After Effects. Yeah, reverb mic, but I can't, correct me, like, could I paint on a layer? And honestly, I still want all of the tools in Photoshop for painting, just so you know. So yeah, we can animate masks and things. So yeah, cool. All right. Yeah, I rendered this as an MP4. You got it, Stony. So let's add some particle effects. Okay, this is gonna get interesting. I'm just checking the time. Yeah, I got time for this. All right, cool. In fact, that's also in here. This takes so much tweaking, this part, just so you know. It takes a lot of tweaking, just so you know. So it's just gonna take a lot of playing with. So we're gonna go ahead and create a new layer. Type in particle, CC particle world, drop that on there. Oh, geez, I'm in the wrong composition. So sorry. Let's just copy this. Go back to ours. Here we go. New solid. Oh, help me. CC particle world. We'll turn off most of these other things just so we can see it. But here are the particles now. See, we have these lovely particles that we can play with. We have all of these properties. You want to turn off all these grids and guides, because that's all this stuff that you see. Right here, you want to turn off the position, the radius, the motion. You don't need to see the grid. You don't need to see any of that stuff. The axis box, all of that. Just turn off everything underneath that first section. You have the birth rate, the rate at which it sort of creates, how long it lasts, and then the physics and the particles. Right? We can see right in here, first thing we want to do is like deal with the birth color. We'll make that white. And I'm looking for the position. Okay, let's take this, position X, Y, and then Z. So we have the ability to kind of make it look like we're looking up at it if we want to. Start to control the radius. And one problem with this, we basically have the same problem we had before, because it's only going to kind of constrain to that bounding box for that layer. Right? So once we know this, we can go ahead and create a new solid that's going to be 4,000 by 6,000, right? Twice the size. And we'll just paste that in there. This new one. All right. Now, we don't want these to last that long. The big problem is the shape, by the way. So let me change the color, then change the shape really fast. Let's move this up. So the big problem is the shape. If you guys can tell, those are actually just like dashed lines. So sure enough, right down here for the particle type, we're going to turn this into a shaded sphere. There we go. We have our shaded sphere. Still using that birth color and death color. Let's do faded sphere. That's what we want. Change it to faded sphere. Much more appropriate. Then let's deal with the size. The birth size and the death size. Let's take it down, and let's take down the death size. There we go. So just made these sparkles. Let's turn on our other layers. And now we can see those sparkles radiating out. We could decrease the velocity. We already changed the color. What else should we do to it? It could probably come from the same spot as these light rays, or they could just float longer. And that's what I think it needs. It needs to be just have some nice atmosphere. So we need to just take that velocity down. Don't move them so fast, right? We'll cut it in half. We'll do 0.5. Hit enter. And another thing that happens, I really need to change the size of these. But it's always going to start generating from the beginning of this layer, the start of the layer. So we actually have them all burst out all of a sudden. So typically you just take that layer and move it over, so they would have already generated by the time frame 1 begins. So anyways, let's actually switch to my final. I'm so glad I worked on this because it just is looks much better when I spent more time with it. If I could revert back to the original. Revert it back. What did you do with it, Paul? How did you break it? Oh, man. I might have broke it. Oh, that's just one I added accidentally. Let's just get rid of that. And take a look. Here's the settings for this particle system. Birth size, death size. Velocity is negative 25.25. And those are all just kind of floating around in space, like looks much better. So anyways. Alrighty. So that's the idea. I think this one looks much better, to be honest with you, because I spent more time on it. And that's what you're going to do. You're going to spend so much time playing around with these little particles that, you know, once you get it right, just save that file or do a rendering of that and just keep that off to the side. I already have renderings of this, by the way, because really, once you have those particles, you could render it or get it from somewhere or wherever, but I have a bunch of these dust particles right in here. Here's a cool one. Right, so it's already rendered. I made it once, and then I take that, I just drop it into my final file. I have some other ones in here too. This one floating up. It's all kind of like floating different directions, but again, kind of cool. Change that to lighten. Maybe we'll drop in this one. And I'd end up with a couple layers here, and I still want to create some depth. So I would have another particle system or rendering and put it beneath or behind the skeleton, right? And then just adjust its time. So now we have some in the front, some in the back. Everything's doing its thing. You get the idea. Oh, a fire in the middle of the crown like Hellboy. That would be pretty cool. Yeah. You know what? It's October. So, yeah, I could easily see some flames being used here. Still need to clean this up a lot. I would love to cycle through the colors, maybe work on the contrast. A lot of this, again, this is sort of like After Effects for the Photoshop user. We can create a new adjustment layer just like we can in Photoshop. So for this adjustment layer, we'll just throw in some levels. Type in levels, drop that on that adjustment layer. From here, sort of making it all darker. See, that's much easier to see. It has that pop to it. And looks better. Of course, we could animate all these properties as well, right? It has a stopwatch next to it, you can animate it. But that alone like helps this pop a lot more. I'm realizing this circle right back here, right? We're playing with this. This comes in, you can see it right here, as a mask on that particular layer. So I could either use this circle or create my own, right? So let's just delete that. Let's create a new shape layer. Oop, not adjustment layer. Again, the goal, since this is a Photoshop masterclass, is to kind of ease you into After Effects. New shape layer. There's our shape layer. From here, we can just take the ellipse and draw out an ellipse. Yours obviously is not going to look like this, because this looks ridiculous, right? Because that's my crazy fill that I have in there. So let's change that. In fact, I could change that to a burst, but really, right down here, this is my gradient. So edit gradient right in here. This looks pretty good. Oh yeah, this is the problem. Look at this, my gradient is looking good. I want to actually change this to a linear gradient, and then we're going to change, because right in here, and it kind of gets lost depending on your gradient. I actually didn't see it, but this is your gradient bar for adjusting, obviously, the gradient in general, going from sort of light to dark or whatever. Let's change this. Try some different colors. Drop this behind everything else. And there you have it. All right, cool. What else should we animate? All right, we could animate this gradient. We could animate this like flickering colors and different things. I think it'd be more fun if the there was some flickering of the statue, like its brightness and its contrast. I think that will look better. And again, I'm not sold on this color. Like, the more I look at it, you're probably thinking the same thing. I could always use help with most things. Oh, yeah, that's why I like doing these live streams. I get a lot of help from you guys. I don't know. Better, worse? It's not as distracting, but it has a little bit of color to it. Okay, so let's move on. Stoney, you are too nice to me. Thank you so much. Let's have this skeleton, not the skeleton, the statue. This statue is also going to flicker. Maybe. Should it? Yeah, sure, why not? Brightness and contrast. Brightness, contrast. Drop it on that statue group. Sure enough, here it is. This goes from 0 to 100. Let's just kind of play with these numbers, actually. Like, see, look at that. That's what I like. And let's try this. Let's throw a little wiggle action in here. Wiggle. 20. 70. See what happens. Okay, there we go. It doesn't quite match up. I'm sorry, that was a bad idea. It doesn't quite match up. Give me 1 second. You could always hit the tilde key, which is this. Oh, shoot. And yeah, so right in here, that does flicker a little bit different. Tilde key will actually bring up all those key points, but that's kind of where this is at, just for fun. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm going to post this to Instagram later, so check that out. And thank you so much. We'll see you all very soon. So thanks for watching.